What's going on, everyone? This is Sherry, and you are tuned into She Said What She Said, the podcast where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. And we have a literal badass tonight, someone that I probably would not mess with in a back alley. You guys know that's my favorite type of woman. So that is what we'll be talking about. And maybe she has messed with someone in the back alley. We'll also find out that too. But I have a co-host this evening. We have one of my besties. I still haven't gotten a good opening tagline for her yet. So I think when her and I are out for St. Patty's Day this Saturday, we will work on that. So without further ado, Miss Emma V.
Hey, back
Hey,
again. I don't know what
hey.
my tagline would be either.
Yeah, we'll have a couple beverages and I'll get a good one
It's when I
for
do
you
my
because
best
I
thinking.
yeah, because like I already gave snacks the other P in my pods, so I can't use that one. And I have different. I was like, I gotta get Emma one.
The third P in the pod. Is that weird? That's weird.
Nope. Yeah, then you're just
Yeah.
peeing in my pod, so that might be weird. Um, but you have some new hardware to
Yes,
show
it
off. I
finally
know I already saw it in person. I had a party that night, but show it off, show it off.
surprised you remember it, honestly. So
I do. Thanks.
throw that out there. So
I had a good time.
yes, it finally came after what has it been like 5 months? But our rings are in, and my lighting
Woohoo!
sucks. So let me just move this on over here so we can
Yep,
sparkle a
Chicago
little bit.
Blitz. They had their ring ceremony.
Yeah.
Was that two weeks ago? Yeah. So
Yeah, diamonds. Icy, as the cool kids say.
yes,
We got
yes.
our names, our numbers, and our position, and
Mm-hmm.
then Chicago Blitz and the year. And then Deanna Hightower, our basically team mom, she got
Mm-hmm.
the inside engraved for all of us secretly. And it says,
Oh,
hard work pays. I'm not sure why it doesn't say like pay off. Maybe it was just too expensive to add the last word. So we just have hard work pays. But I love Mama D. She always goes above and beyond to like make us feel loved and appreciated and special. So yeah, we finally got them. And a funny story is we all like ordered our correct size, or I even like
mm-hmm.
sized up on mine. And for some reason, none of them fit anyone's fingers.
Mm.
And so,
Oh
yeah, so
no.
everyone's like I can get mine on, but it's a process to take it off. So I just
Yeah,
wear it when I need
and
to. But
it's winter too. When it's summer and like your fingers start to expand, don't
oh
try to
my
put that
god.
puppy on.
Hopefully I lost weight by then and then my hands will be a little bit
I
slimmer.
don't even
So
know if that's gonna help. You know what I
it
mean?
helps.
Like
Trust
because
me.
it's sometimes it's okay. Well, if it's your regular ring size, but
Maybe
yeah,
I'll just put it on a necklace. I need a really strong chain because this thing is
yeah,
heavy.
yeah, it is.
But yeah,
I do remember you and Sierra showing them to me on that Saturday. Thanks for asking. I wasn't that drunk. Come on. And I also people brought enough alcohol. I have enough alcohol for probably a year. My
that's the
beer
whole
fridge
point of
is
hosting
completely.
parties
I
because
know, but I have so
you
much.
need
I don't even
alcohol
know.
for the
Like
whole year.
my beer fridge is full. My whole everything. My bar is full. I'm like, sheesh. And I had enough leftovers for like a week of food. So
That food was delicious, by the way. You did your thing.
thank you. Thanks,
You did your
girl.
thing.
I love my little Mardi Gras parties. But yes, for tonight we have our guest is actually courtesy of your man. Hey,
Hey,
this
boo.
is a woman that he knows who he said this woman will probably kick anyone's ass. I mean, I don't know if that's what he said, but he sent us some videos and I was like, oh my, I'm
Damn.
terrified. I love it.
Damn.
So yeah, and we have a new sport. So our new sport tonight, we are stepping into the cage. We are stepping into the MMA world, mixed martial arts, and we have ourselves a professional fighter. I believe her first fight of the year is going to be April 20th. Looking on her Instagram, it
Ooh.
said like 8 weeks from now. And so I tried to count, but I didn't want to like put the date out there because if I counted wrong, we might be wrong. But she is a literal badass. So she only did one professional fight last year and she won. But she is the little one. She's in the little Atomweight. So she's strong, but small, but very, very mighty. And she also, not only does she fight, she also owns a gym, Intercept MMA. That's where I'm assuming she knows your boo.
Yeah,
And
I believe he trained there at some point in his like youth. We've driven past the gym out in like what is it, like River Forest or something, and but I've never
of
had the
course,
pleasure of going in.
well, I
So
think we have something
he
else for
showed me
you.
the little tour outside, like, oh, this is the gym where my friends own, and I used to train there. I'm like, okay, cool, and we drove by.
Perfect. But without further ado, Miss Anna Honeybadger Summers. Hey!
Hi,
Welcome.
guys.
Thanks for coming on.
That was a
Thank you for
great
having
intro.
me.
Yeah, Torrance was like, I have a fighter. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, he hit me up and I was like, yeah, sure. I love interviews. But then this is actually my first live one. I've only done like pre-recorded ones. So you had me a little bit nervous because I'm not
Good.
really sure what you guys are going to hit me with. So
Good.
We don't
You
either.
know,
That's the excitement.
I actually don't know. Like that's people have asked like, what's your secret? Like, how, what questions do you write? I'm like, I don't write a single question out. I just, try to find out as much as the person, and then it's the listening skills. And so then we go through here, and so we don't know what we're going to ask you either.
Okay.
But did I
Would
get
you
the
like a
date
little?
right for the first fight of the year?
So
Was I
you're
off?
very close. It's going to be a Saturday. I can't
Okay.
actually tell you guys the exact date and who I'm fighting due to my
Oh.
contract, but I can tell you you did your math right.
Oh,
So yes,
winner.
I can tell you that the girl that I'm fighting is a striker. So
Okay.
it'll be some fireworks. I'm really excited for this one. I typically fight strikers at this weight class. I've had a few who had like wrestling backgrounds, but for the most part, they're just pretty scrappy girls that just want to throw hands. So it's fun for me, and over the last few years, I've really been able to kind of like put my whole game together. I was very I was one-dimensional, but in each area, and I couldn't really tie it all together. And I'm finally coming to that point where I am. So wherever the fight goes is where I'll feel confident. So it's going to be a fun one for sure.
Oh, fantastic! And you fight with was it Combat Global?
Combate Global, yes.
Combate
It's like
Global.
it's the world's biggest Latin promotion. But they do a really, really awesome job of promoting their women and the obviously like the female weight classes. So the UFC actually doesn't have an atomweight division.
Oh, okay.
The owner of Combate is Campbell McLaren. He actually started the UFC with Dana White. So I know that I think the UFC kind of like keeps their eyeballs on the people in Combate, so they kind of like pull from there, which is kind of cool. So you have lots of big names and eyes on you when you fight there. But they have one of the biggest atomweight divisions. It's bigger than Invicta's atomweight division. I don't know if it's bigger than like Ryzen or One because they have a lot of small girls. But it's one of the biggest, and they host their shows in Miami, so it's in the States, which is nice, and I don't have to go overseas. Yeah. And overseas has different rule sets, which I'm not like a huge fan of, just because I don't like getting foot stomped in the mouth. So I'll take the rules here in the U.S.
Who does? And your guys' fights are on, was it Univision that it was?
Yeah.
So all your fights will be on TV?
Yeah, Telemundo and then Paramount Plus.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. I love that. Yeah.
Watch it. I can actually watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yes, Emma. We will have to.
Sherry knows figured out the secret. I mean, so I am so ready.
Yeah. Oh, that is so exciting. And so you haven't fought in a year, correct? You only had the one. Is that normal to do one fight a year, or do you want to aim for like 2 or 3? Because isn't it normally a couple more?
Yeah, so I actually had a fight set for after that big win I had. I wanted to fight right away, but I obviously had to like wait for them to give me someone, yada yada, and they did. And then I had a pretty long camp, and I was supposed to fight in September, but I dislocated my patella, and it came
Ooh.
with like a world of problems. So I'm actually still dealing with that issue right now. But I had to go through physical therapy. I had to get steroid injections, all the fun stuff. But now it's one of those things where it's like it's going to be probably like a chronic injury for the rest of my life unless I decide to do surgery, which I don't really want to do because that can cause other issues and it's not really
Exactly.
necessary. So it's me kind of just training smart and working around it. But I have a far better understanding of how to take care of it, the issue itself. I have something called Hoffa's fat pad syndrome. So it's like
Okay.
it's like an injury from impact. So like slapping my knee off the mat, it's the fat pad that's under your knee and it's full of nerves. So like when your leg is bent past a certain position or completely straight, it impinges it. So it's like an impingement, and so it smashes all those nerves, and it's extremely painful. And then it swells, and it's a whole thing. But it doesn't affect any of my tendons, which is awesome. So I'm not really at risk of tearing anything.
So I believe I had that injury in college. I ran track in college, and there was like literally I was warming up for a 400 indoors my sophomore year, and mid stride I hit and I just completely fell to the ground because like the nerve, my patella like hit a nerve, and I was like,
it's really painful.
Yeah. But don't worry, they did some magic and they put me on the track. I had to miss one event, but they're like, we're going to put you on the track for a little bit later. And I couldn't run for 2 weeks. But yeah, it was like, because sometimes you see people like running like full speed and they fall. You're like, how does that happen? Oh, okay. When you have a nerve that goes, so yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with that shit chronically. That was.
Yeah, it causes like buckling. So like what happens is especially when your patella like goes out of place, the tendon is overstretched. So your quad is like overfiring to kind of protect your knee from dislocating again. So basically it overworks. So then when it's fatigued and everything, that's when you get that buckling and you start to like kind of like fall randomly and stuff like that. So it was just a whole process. I had to like get the strength back in my leg to just protect my patella, and now I feel like everything's kind of like back in this right spots, but now I get like a lot of tightness and things like that, and then swelling. The swelling is the worst part of it, all of it, just because it's painful, but it is what it is.
Do you have to wear like a knee brace or anything?
Yeah, so I actually have one coming in the mail right now. It's basically like it's not even like a brace. So like compression doesn't always help with that. So what I do is I tape my patella up with like rock tape or like UKT tape. So I pull my patella up with it. So it's pulling it off of the fat pad. But I found this brace recently. It was like Brace Labs or something that like goes around your knee and kind of pushes it up. And it's supposed to be for like patella tendonitis and a couple other things. So it's in the mail right now. I'm going to try it. I'll let you know how it goes. But I'm willing to try anything right now.
Nice. Yeah. Sure. I know the desperation. So our first question has came in. So MMA is very intriguing to me, as us all. Which forms of martial art do you use in your fighting styles?
So we at Intercept always kind of taught something called like Jeet Kune Do, and it's like Bruce Lee's like form of taking multiple martial arts and like blending them all together. But obviously when you're in MMA, you can't do all the traditional styles because they don't all blend well to MMA. So basically what we take is boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling. And those are like the main structure of what we train. But I feel like one thing that we do really well at Intercept when we train is that we blend all those things together for the most part. So like when I'm in striking class, I will use the clinch. I will use entries into my wrestling and things like that, even though it's a striking class. So we're never really leaving anything out, if that makes sense.
And you started in jiu-jitsu, correct? Was that
So,
your opening into the fighting world?
Yeah, so that is what I started to compete in. Competing in jiu-jitsu is a really great way to wet your feet in competition, where you're not getting hit in the face. That stage fright, that deer in headlight thing is a very real thing, and I still felt it my first MMA fight. I remember I rocked the girl in my first fight. I kicked her right in the face, and I just stood there and looked at her like, duh. I'm like, did I just do that? Yeah, so it's a very real thing. It's not like a group sport where you can blend in when you're nervous. It's like all eyes are on you. There's lights on you. People are screaming at you, whether they're screaming for you or against you. So it's very keeps you humble. Let's just leave it at that. But yeah, I started in jiu-jitsu, and this is something I excelled at very quickly. I was actually just going through like old striking videos of myself last night, and oh my goodness, I was dying laughing. It's just so bad, but it's a good way to remind yourself of how far you've come.
Absolutely.
So, Torrance tried to teach me how to do like basic like boxing stuff during COVID, like when the shutdown first happened. We had like an entryway in our building. He's like, I got the little mitts and you got the gloves, and we did it once, and I felt like a 5-year-old. Like trying to I don't know what it is. I will play any contact sport. I play freaking professional tackle football, for God's sakes, but I cannot punch anyone. I've never been in my life. I've never punched anyone in my life.
I'll tell you
one person, but that was about it.
I receive all the beginners, all the new people that come in, and the people who have never trained in anything in their life generally transition to MMA a little bit more smoothly. I wouldn't say that they're better athletes by any means, but they transition a little bit more smoothly because like people that come from like football or wrestling even, and things where like everything is a very strong, like a brute strength type of sport, very stiff. Everyone's like very stiff, very like robotic, whereas someone who's never really done anything before is kind of like loose generally. They're wild, they're unpredictable, whereas people who are athletes are so worried about like doing things properly and right that they get really tense. And so you guys look like really awkward and like robotic, but obviously you're coachable, so that helps. But it does. It's funny to see like people who transition from and are really, really good at other sports, and they try to like throw a punch and they couldn't beat their way out of a paper bag.
That's me. That is me. I'm so fascinated by like martial arts. Like I remember I went and watched Torrance like do jiu-jitsu training at like a gym here in Chicago like one time years ago, and it was just like the whole gym was just going, and there's like little matches everywhere, and I'm just like, what is happening? These people are crazy.
It's awesome. So I'm an athlete, but I don't like to be hit in the face, and I don't really want other people to hit me in the face. Girl. So that was the start and the end of my boxing career. Because I was working out with a boxing coach who had put some people in golden gloves. He's like, oh, I'd be great at it. And then like the first time just like going, like just in practice with the headgear on, I was like, I don't like it at all. But it was one thing about his training style. It was very old school. So I'm a lefty. He forced me to learn how to box standard. And then like after a little bit, then he let me switch to being a southpaw. So like Emma, when you were saying like you felt so awkward, I felt so awkward for that first, month or so of learning how to box. I was doing it like completely right-handed, and then I was like, all right, now you can switch. And I was like, oh, hey. But like even if I were to box now, like just for fun, I like legit will make myself do half and half, like both ways. Because it's like
interesting. Because I feel like generally boxing coaches, like even if you're right-handed, will I don't know. I guess I can't say anything because I really never been to a boxing gym, but it's just interesting to hear that. I usually like they'll let you just train in whatever lead you're comfortable in nowadays. But back then I feel like, yeah, everyone was pretty in like much in an orthodox stance.
Yeah, and it was, I guess he was saying that was like his secret for southpaws was to like force you
Train
to
you
learn
in
everything super
That's good
uncomfortable.
though.
It
Yeah.
also might have been that the fact that he didn't necessarily know exactly how to train a southpaw. So like when you're a lefty, you know what I mean? You're so many things you learn how to do right-handed, then you switch it. So I'm not sure. But yeah, that was the start and the end of my boxing career. But I do like to hit bags and I do like to do boxing stuff. But
I'll let you in on a little secret though.
Yes, give me the secret.
If a fighter ever tells you that they like to get punched in the face, they're either A, lying, or they're B, crazy. So there's not a lot of fighters that will say like, yeah, I love getting hit in the face. Like, I don't like to get hit. Like, that's not something like I enjoy doing. Like, I don't like standing there and getting beat up. Like, I like to hit and not get hit. So if they say that,
I didn't want to hit someone either. Like, I'd feel bad if I was like, oh no, sorry.
That problem I don't have.
I know, you're like, I don't understand that. So Mark wanted to say, hey, Anna, the wife and I very much enjoyed training at your gym. We got a mix of everything in one class, always ending with conditioning. Oh, the worst. So do you?
I know, it's a torture.
Yeah. So how long have you guys had the gym?
So I was training at this gym when it was actually a Victory gym, and it was like a chain. And my husband and I decided to buy it when the owner decided he was going to kind of walk away from the gyms. He wasn't coaching at them. My husband was managing it for a long time. And we kind of had the option of, well, the gym is either going to shut down or we can go out on a limb and buy it. And this was like literally like 6 months before like COVID hit.
Oh no.
So, you know, we bought a gym business right before COVID hit, right? It might have been a year, but either way, like within the first year of buying a business and something like that happens, it's not cool. But yeah, I was helping out teaching and coaching for a while before that. I started around in like 2014, I would say. I wasn't coaching at that time, but that's when I started training. I started coaching more once I had my daughter and my husband needed some help. And that's really where I truly learned how to become a mixed martial artist. Like, I thought I knew what I was doing, and then when I started teaching, I realized how much I didn't know, and that was a really good way for me to just get really good at basic skills, was by teaching them. So when I first started teaching, it was terrifying because I was like, am I even qualified to do this? And then the more I taught, the more confidence it gave me as well. And then I feel like really transitioned into the cage over time. So
I love it.
Yeah, we've owned it for like 3 years now, I think. But yeah, I've been teaching for a little bit longer.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, teaching's a whole new beast. Like I played soccer my whole life, and so I'm now doing the other end of what I grew up doing, playing like elite travel soccer. So I actually like just came from practice. So like I totally get that. Like when I first started out coaching, I'm fresh out of college. I think I'm like the shit. I just played my fourth and final year, and then I'm like, I have to teach these little kids, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I break down the concept of like passing and receiving? Like you have to like go back to the basics and learn how to like break things down. And then you have to like explain why you do it. And you're like, I don't know, it's just my whole life. And I didn't really think about it, so yeah, it's like a whole new beast. You just like learn so much more.
Yeah, and they always have that saying of like, those who can't do teach, which that's very like all over the place with that. You can't really like necessarily say that, but at the same time, it's like I taught and then I realized how much I couldn't do. I was like, oh my goodness, I am so green, and I thought that I knew so much. And I think that teaching is probably one of the best ways of learning. And I know that sounds crazy, but it truly is real. Hey.
Hey.
What's up, dude?
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? Long time no see.
All right. I have an official question for the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Ask
We
it.
got a bomber here. Oh man.
Wait,
who
bring
is
your
this?
bring your head in a little bit more.
my bad.
Emma, get out of the way. Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it.
Are you jealous that I'm Danny's first love?
Maybe a little bit.
I just need to hear it. I just need to hear it. All right. Continue.
Good, now you got it.
Torrance. Jesus.
That was a very in-depth question. I'm so
That's
glad
a
you
Torrance
gave it.
question. I'm not
That-
surprised at all.
That is. But you know what, Emma, right before we jumped on, you were going to tell a Torrance story.
Oh yeah.
So tell us the Torrance story.
So whenever he like talks about like you and your husband or like the gym or training or whatnot, he tells you a story about you. And I don't remember if it was recent or a long time ago. I feel like it was fairly recent when you broke a girl's arm. And he like would bring it up, and then suddenly yesterday, I don't know if he just like thought about the podcast and you coming on or whatever. He like dug and found the video of it, and he sent it to me, and you just see the girl's arm just go, boop, and I was like, oh shit! I was like, send it to Sherry. You need it for tomorrow. I was like, is there a way we can like put this video up on the screen? Like, can you hold it on your phone or something? I think the world needs to see this.
Okay, you can do it. You can do it, Emma. Yeah, pull it up.
I was like, oh, that thing just popped. I was like,
she like yelped, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I got a lot of backlash for that. I mean, at the same time, like, it just comes from naivety. Like, it's just people don't know what they're talking about when they say it's like bad sportsmanship and stuff. Like, you sign on a dotted line pretty much to the death, basically. Like, there's certain rules you have to abide by, but like it's on yourself. It's on each of us to protect ourselves at all times.
Absolutely.
And
no, it's yeah.
To use your mouth and your hands to tap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, press play.
My fist like I'm Boucher, baby. Internet rappers ain't two-faced. Until they meet the dark night, then it's too late, baby.
Looks like a monster.
That yelp is actually one of the announcers like screaming when it happened. But the girl did scream, and because her face was like behind my body, everyone thought I was screaming in the girl's face. Like, out of like excitement, I was like, I mean, I felt like bad. You can go. I hugged her. Like, there's never like, obviously I go in there with ill intentions, but at the end of the day, like, I never want to ruin someone's either career or take them out of the sport for any extended period of time. Like, we're all still athletes on the same path, you know. But at the same time, she would do the same thing to me if had the possibility to, you know, which, you know, it seems like really messed up, but at the same time, like, that's a sport we're in. So, you know, it's on her to protect herself, and it was also on the ref to protect her. And, you know,
and
it is what it
freak things happen, right? You know, I mean, where it just, if she's like contorting her body at an angle, and even if you're trying to do it, things happen. It didn't look like you had any ill intention out of it at all.
No,
you know, it was just a side effect of the sport.
Yeah, and the other thing too is generally people's shoulders dislocate before bones break. But what I think it was is like her shoulder. She's young. She was like 18. Her shoulders, like, I think, were just really tight, so the bone gave way before the joint did. So like her humerus just like snapped in half. It felt like a glow stick. That's how like easily it snapped.
Wow.
It was like if you just took like a big ass carrot and just broke it in half. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. Now you're thinking about it, like, I'm wondering if she did have some type of pre-existing injury that did cause it, because like you're right, like usually in the fights you see the dislocated shoulder or the dislocated elbow or you know, something being dislocated first. You know, when you were talking about the UFC stuff and the MMA and the jiu-jitsu, so Emma knows one of my favorite podcasts is ESPN's 30 for 30. And I don't know if you know that they did a podcast on the origin of UFC and the very first fight. When you were saying like you don't, like, you know, the rules of overseas where you don't want it, they had like two rules. It was like, don't wear steel-toed boots, don't bite people. And,
Yeah,
and so
it was wild.
the very first time, Emma,
Fight
they
to the
did
death,
this.
literally.
It was like a fight to the death almost. I think 9 people were sent to the hospital in ambulances. But what they had done is they had invited fighters from every different style into one to have it like the ultimate, like who's the ultimate thing. They didn't have weight classes. They didn't have anything. So they got sumo wrestlers, the Muay Thai, the karate, the kickboxing, all of them, the wrestler. And it was the jiu-jitsu people
They came out on top.
Yep. And so that was kind of the backstory.
The little man sport.
It is, you know, because when we think about like UFC, and I used to think it too, like, oh, it was like a boxer's thing, right? The boxers do it because you see the striking, but then when you learn more about it, how important the ground game is, and not just wrestling is different types of move too than jiu-jitsu. So yeah, that's kind of like the base layer, you know, of the sport. Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, jiu-jitsu will always be my first love, and I think it's a really fun way to be creative. I feel like, you know, like everyone, no matter what your sport is, you feel like you can be like an artist at the things that you do. And I feel like when it comes to MMA, jiu-jitsu is one of the best ways to become that artist, you know, and paint the canvas, literally the canvas in the cage. It's you can get funky with it. Like you can take basic concepts and make them very unique. Whereas with like striking, you can do that to an extent, but there's a lot of ways to get hurt. I feel like more with striking than jiu-jitsu. And again, with jiu-jitsu, you can always just tap out. And with striking, it's like you get hit a few times before you can either verbally say like, okay, I don't, like, please stop. And then the ref calls it, or the ref calls it for you. So with jiu-jitsu, it's like kind of in your court, you know?
Yeah. Our good friend, one of my best friends, Moses, he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's only been doing it for, I don't even know if it's been 5 years at this point, but yeah, he's obsessed. So whenever, if there's a fight on, he was narrating the whole thing, talking about it. And then
on his wife.
Yeah. Yes. I'm like, can y'all not post those videos? I don't need to see your weird little foreplay.
That's what my mom used to say. She was like, you and your husband used to like make me so uncomfortable while you were dating. She was like, you guys are like rolling around on top of each other. And I'm like, it's funny though, because it's like the most non-sexual thing ever. But it's like everyone on the outside looking in is like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Torrance doesn't train anymore, but he'll still like come up to me and like put me in fucking like shoulder locks and arm locks. I'm like, why? I'm just trying to like make breakfast.
He can. That's why.
He can. Now, did you meet your husband at a gym?
No, I was working at a bar. We met in a bar. Good old fashioned story right there.
The old fashioned way.
Yeah, I was a waitress, and he was coming in after fights to watch the UFC fights and get some food. And I sat down at his table, and I was out of college at the time, and I said, I was like asking him about like what he was doing there. It was late. He was my only table, and yeah, I just kind of like asked him about it, and then he ended up giving my phone number, because I gave him my phone number to try out the gym, you know, and he was like, well, my friend does the Orland location, which is like closer out by me, and he gave him my number in front of him, and I was like, oh, okay. But then like 3 days later, I got a message like, hey, do you know who this is? And I was like, man, I hope it's him. So I guessed it was him, and it was. So he just pretended to give his phone number to him, and ever since then, yeah, we hit it off, and I fell in love with training. And I hate, like, because I feel like sometimes people think like I live my lifestyle because of him, because he did it before me. But at the same time, like if I didn't truly love it, I wouldn't have made it to a professional level because
Right.
that takes a lot of dedication.
Mhm.
And it's not like one of those, like I was saying, it's not like one of those sports where like you have to be really good to get to a professional level, no matter what sport it is, right? But you can't be carried by anyone, like at all.
No.
Like you
No.
have to, you are literally the only person that can get in the cage. Like it doesn't matter how good of training partners you have, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you have. At the end of the day, the only person that can go in there and help you is you. So it
Mhm.
takes a lot of work to get to that level. And I will say this though, being a female in this sport has its like pros and cons, right? Like finding matchups super hard, but when you do find them, you find legit girls, because
Okay.
the ones that want to do it, you know, are good and they invest in it, you know. So I think I don't know, it's interesting being female in this sport. It's very interesting.
I was gonna ask you that because the gym that my primary gym, they're also a
Mhm,
Gracie jiu-jitsu gym, and like it's the classes are pretty much all men. You know, there's like one who I
mhm,
think she's a brown belt female there, and you know I see some women, but it's like it is a, you know, when you're saying like the having a boyfriend introduced, it's a higher barrier entry sport, you know, for
mhm.
women, right? Because you can't just go grab, there's not necessarily even going to be a woman there, right? So like
Mhm.
how much of your training do you do against men? Like how do you you know, kind of navigate a male dominated sport?
So it's a good question, because I was talking to someone about this recently, and it's like it's about female retention, right? You have a
Mhm.
lot of females that walk in the gym, but how many of them stay? And in order to have the next generation of women come in, you need that retention, because they come in and they want to see that group of girls. And if there's no group of girls there, the chances and likelihood of them staying is very low, right? Unless they were 100% when they walked in, they were like, man, I really want to do this,
Right,
right?
this is
And
it, yeah. Mhm.
there's not a little women that come into a gym and are there because they want to fight. They're generally there because they want to learn self-defense. They want to make
Mhm.
sure that they have that like insurance that they can take care of themselves. But even then, it's hard to keep them. They think that they learn a couple things, and then when they get out on the street and something happens, that's just going to be a natural reaction, right? Like when you're with
Right.
that fight or flight system, like you have to have training, and you have to train it every day or at least a couple times a week for it to actually work and to kick in when those situations happen. Now, that being said, like the retention is hard, right? They need a solid group of girls. So I feel like over the years, I've really tried to take as many females in under my wing as possible, and really like, you know, push them to either compete in jujitsu or just show up at the gym like, hey, where are you at? Why aren't you here today? You know, you have to be those women for that next group, because if you're not, then that will never happen. It just won't.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
it's so male dominated, and we even lose students sometimes, like brand new students, because I'm a female coach. Like I'm the first person you have to get through in order to move on to the
Mhm.
next level. Um, so there's you know, there's men and there's even women who don't want to learn from another female.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately.
it's really sad. It's even worse when it's like a woman, because it's like I'm you would think like it'd be a comfortability level there, but sometimes there's not. Like they either just want to learn from a man because they think only men can fight, and that's a horrible stigma, right? But
Mhm.
or there's men who are like, what does she know? You know, like, so it's, I mean, and to them, I guess, good riddance, but it is hard. This sport is hard. It's hard to keep female retention, not just getting females in the door, because they do come in. Like I won't say that they don't. We have obviously more men than women, but keeping them is the hardest part.
I get that. I had the same experiences coaching soccer.
Mm.
Like I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
dads. Like I don't coach boys anymore just because I'm now at a club that I don't have to. But I still get like dads every year. I'm dealing with one right now. Like he thought he had the right to run onto my sideline and try to tell me what to do because he didn't like that I put his daughter in the goal. So I was like, sir, no thanks. Thank God my boss was there so I could keep my temper down and he could deal with that. But I was like, the audacity. I was fuming. I couldn't even like, think about the game and coach the girls for the rest of the game because I was in my head like, this motherfucker. Like he had the audacity to think that he could even say anything.
Nothing like the audacity of a mediocre man
who knows nothing about the sport. He sent me an email.
It's never the ones that know about the sport because the ones that knew about the sport are going to know that you're doing something. Talking about? Yeah.
It's exactly that naivety I was telling you about earlier. It's people that can either hide behind a keyboard or hide behind their body type. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying, like they can hide behind the fact that they're big and tall and they're stronger than us or whatever it is. Like even some women have that complex, but I mean, obviously there's still stigmas that happen, you know, to this day. And I feel like as women, we have come so far, especially in sports. I think it's awesome.
Absolutely.
We are presented so many more opportunities than we used to have. But now I think, and that's as an athlete, but now I think as coaches, we still have a long way to go in that area. Right. But I think that also like men are starting to become more trusting of women, that we are very intelligent beings. And when it comes to coaching, you need high IQs. You need skill IQ, you know, timing IQ, like all those different things. And that's something that we can have without needing to have like the body type to be able to do it. You know, like obviously some of us can do it and do both, but when it comes to coaching, like you don't have to be able to do it to be a phenomenal coach. You know, I know.
You know, like all coaching is teaching. Like they can trust us. I'm also a teacher. They could trust us in the classroom, but when it comes to a sport, I'm not to be trusted.
Yeah. It's So Anna, what is your sports background? Like, did you do sports growing up? Were you?
You name it, I did it.
Or you did. Okay.
I couldn't. So that's the thing. That's how I know like martial arts is for me, because, you know, I played softball for a long period of time. I played soccer in high school. I ran track and cross country. I ran track in college for a little bit. I never really got to in college, I never really got to the competing season because I had health issues that took me out of college completely.
Okay.
I have lupus, so nephritis, so it attacks my kidneys. And so, so that was like a whole process in itself. But that's what led me to MMA and my husband and everything, because I wasn't working, I wasn't training or like going to school and stuff. So that's actually how I met him. But besides the point, I did like a lot of sports. I was always, I would say I was an athlete, but I was never really like good at anything. Like I was like subpar. Like I was like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. But I never really had the drive to be like super good at anything, because I just kind of liked it. Like it was fun. I ran, like I could either run fast or like I did excel at cross country like pretty well. Like I had and track. And but like ball sports, I was like, you know, I was decent. I wasn't like anything like, wow, that girl's really good, you know. But then I found MMA, and it was something that even though I wasn't super good at it and I didn't excel at it really quickly, that I was like, I want to do this and I want to get good at it. And I busted my ass day after day. I still to this day am busting my butt to get better and better and better and better. And there's never a day where I'm like, yeah, it's okay, I just want a rest day. Like even on the days where I'm tired and I'm broken down, my desire is to be at the gym getting better. And so that's how I know that this is a sport for me, not being 8 years in now, and like that has never wavered. You know, when I was pregnant and I couldn't train and I had health issues during my pregnancy, it was so hard for me mentally because I couldn't be in here doing what I love. That was probably one of the hardest parts about becoming a mother, like truly. I know people say like, oh, it's the sleepless nights, it's this, that, and the other, it's the birth. What the hardest thing for me was giving up something I loved for a certain period of time. And then that's when I knew, where after I had my daughter, I was like, I'm still doing this. And I caught a lot of backlash for it just because a lot of my time is spent at the gym, but my daughter comes with me and they're like, oh, well, she doesn't have any friends and yada, yada. I'll tell you this girl has a blast at the gym, number one.
I would say,
number
you know
two,
how fun that is for a kid to be at a gym?
right? She's gonna flip around on the mats all day, and like there's days where she's like, I want to go play, and like we still have days where we go do things, you know. And but it's at the same time she's living the lifestyle. I homeschool her so that we can be at the gym late and sleep in the morning, and she can go on trips with us. She goes to the fights, and it's also one of those things where like I don't know a lot of kids who grow up in a home where their parents are actively pursuing a dream. How many kids do you know whose parents, you know, go to work from a 9 to 5 and their parents come home, they kick their feet off, grab a beer out of the fridge, and then they're just done. They don't want to play with their kids because they're too tired. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And yeah, Reagan has to deal with weight cut mom and my crabby sassiness when I'm doing that stuff. But at the same time, she's watching someone trying to get to another level day in and day out.
Yeah.
And
no, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's something I like posted today. It's like kids quit everything they do. That was me. I quit every sport I was in. You know, I never really had a
Frank
role
said
model.
my kids, Frank, you have goals and dreams, and he's on our men's podcast on a Tuesday night.
but they don't see their parents like, and now granted there's people who try to like go up in their job and their work and things like that, but at the end of the day that's just a paycheck, you know. Like this is something that you truly love to do. Yeah, it's passion, it's drive, it's something that a lot of people don't have anymore, and I want her to see that because the people that go places have that. So
and on top of that, you're showing her how to break down like barriers on your way, you know, like it's not just like any like old dream. It's like I'm paving the way for you potentially, or people, you know, your friends, or you know, like the next generation come up. You're breaking down those barriers, and that's so powerful for a young girl to like witness her whole life. Like my mom's a badass. Like you know, mom did that.
It's incredible of like, you know, how much more there is to find when we introduce kids or young adults to more things, right? Like, I think like the state of Minnesota officially has girls high school wrestling as an official sport. I had posted about that. I don't know if any other sports or any other states have it, because other states are still.
Illinois does.
Well, girls specific or girls wrestling against the guys?
No, Illinois girls wrestling.
Oh, they do?
Nice.
Oh, perfect. You see this, like we didn't have this, you know, in a lot of states it is girls wrestling. So like you now have another barrier down, you know, you have a whole nother sport. And it's like, why were like only guys allowed to wrestle? Like why were like, you know, guys only allowed to play football? You know, we have women's flag and it's like all these things.
We become those advocates.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes. And yes, Frank, it is good. But, and it's not only like you're, you know, not to say, you know, you're not doing anything girly, but I mean, come on, you're doing like the least girly thing out there. You're beating the shit out of people, but in like a productive way, you know, because women can fucking fight too.
The guys on my team are always like, yeah, I know you are, dude. I'm like, thanks. But yeah, like, so a little backstory behind the Illinois girls wrestling. Obviously it was very small. I guess it existed, but when I was in high school, I really wanted to join the wrestling team, but I already knew that was like a no-go. And so I asked to be a stat girl. Well, all the guys that did wrestling, I ran cross country and track with, so I was friends with them. But the coach was like, no, you're not talking to them. You're not speaking to them. You're sitting at the front of the bus, yada, yada. And I was like, okay. We would sit at the meets. I wasn't allowed to speak to them, anything, because I was either a distraction or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe there's part truth to that. But at the same time, like, I can't distract 40 boys at one time. Like, I don't know how much power you're giving me with that, you know, whatever.
They can learn how to fucking focus them damn selves.
Yeah. So my husband is actually training a girl who was like, I think at the time she might have been like 13 or 14. But she would like, once I was out of high school, I was in college. She was transitioning into high school. Her name was Savannah. She ended up becoming one of my main training partners. And her mom raised hell for her to wrestle because she did taekwondo as a kid, and obviously she was like working on her way to fighting MMA. So my husband was like, it'd be a really good idea for you to wrestle, you know, get that experience in, and they were like so against it, and her mom really like pushed for her to in the school district to get into the wrestling team. And man, they were like sticklers about what she wore. She had to wear like a sports bra and a t-shirt over her singlet and like baggy shorts. So she's trying to like train in these baggy clothes. You can't do that even in jiu-jitsu or like MMA, right? Like your feet are getting caught and stuff. And like by the time she graduated, the year after she graduated, they did an entire female wrestling team.
Nice.
But someone had to say something. Someone had to be the person to make a big stink and like do all these things. And it's sad that it has to be like that. But at the same time, like she may not realize the impact that she made at that school. You know, like the mom and Savannah, the daughter, like, and also like I feel like us competing and showing up every day in the gym and posting about it and things like that, I think that that's a really it's a really big thing, right? Like I talk to moms all the time. They're like, yeah, I show my daughters your videos and blah, blah, blah. And the girls are like, yeah. And I have a really big female group in my kids class that I teach as well. And I was having a conversation with the parents about it the other day, and they're like, they feel so comfortable being here because you're a woman. And I think that's super awesome. And I think, again, it's just being that advocate. It's being that barrier breaker you were talking about, like just being that person that's there. Because as long as there's someone there, more people will come.
Absolutely. Because it's no longer going to be like wild or weird to, you know, have a woman wrestling in high school or being a professional fighter, because there have been it's like another possibility that girls can have. And I love it. I love to see, you know, I love inclusivity in sports. I love having people have the broader range of sports to do. Because it's like you wanted to wrestle. Like that's the type of thing. And like think of all those other girls that don't want to be the barrier breaker, right? They're not going to be the accelerator. But if there was a team, they would join it. And then, you know, that helps with confidence, that helps with social skills, that helps with staying, you know, athletic, like just like another place, another team, right? For more women to be involved in, which is like, it's never a bad thing, right?
And I always think like, I wonder where I would be at right now in my career if I had been allowed to wrestle, you know? I mean, I may not have even chose to do MMA. I would have been like, no, I want to go somewhere with wrestling. But aside from that, like, imagine now look at how many girls are probably going to get into other sports and be more confident in their day-to-day life and in their jobs and all these things, just because now they're able to do something that they weren't able to do before, something that's very character building, confidence building. I'll say this, I hate wrestling, but it's something I have to do for my sport. And it is probably one of the most humbling character building things that you could possibly get into. And so if there was one thing I recommend all females to do, it would be either wrestling or mixed martial arts. Because again, it is very hard. But once you get past that point where it starts to get a little bit easier and then you start to enjoy it, it's just like, it's one of those things, it just gives you a new head on your shoulders a little bit. You know, you can walk around with your chest up. You can walk around with confidence that you can protect yourself. You can walk around with the confidence that, you know, when someone hits you with a rude comment or things like that, you can retaliate or say something back. Obviously not retaliate, but you know what I mean? Like, like you have the confidence to stand up for yourself. You don't just have to like hang your head, turn around and walk away. Like you have that ability to be brave.
Yeah.
Can I come train with you? Because you just got me like hyped, low key. I'm over here like, I want to try.
Emma's got the Rocky song in her background, like she's gonna be running around tonight, like
I'm like, Torch, teach me
I am
something.
the tiger.
I'm all like, okay, I want to do this. I got this. I can do this.
I love it. So you mentioned having the lupus. How does that affect your training? Does it affect your training?
So I have been in remission for about 8 years. Surprise, surprise.
Fantastic. Yay.
The truth behind being active and not always listening to what doctors say to do. Now, granted, there's always a time and a place to do that, but also I was in a place at one point where they were like, just make her comfortable, like, because I was going to die. As a teenager, it was really bad. I was very sick. And once I got my health in order and I took care of myself, nutrition plays a big factor. As a fighter, you have to have good nutrition all the time. Because if you don't, you can't perform well, even if you're in camp or not. So that plays a big factor in my health overall. So getting, on a good diet consistently and training regularly and things like that is definitely, I truly believe that being as active as I am has kept my lupus at bay, because I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had a flare in a long time.
Wow.
8 years to be precise. I mean, I did have some complications during my pregnancy, but it wasn't anything to be like worried about really, except for when I gave birth, but that was a whole different story. That was the doctor's fault. But at the same time, the one thing I do have to worry about when I cut weight is just not cutting a lot of water weight. So I diet very strictly instead, so that I can get most of it off through, without trying to lose muscle, but also like peel all the fat off my body. So I'm not worried about dropping excessive amounts of water where my kidneys can't like function properly.
Sure.
So that's the only thing I really have to worry about. Now I do have chronic pain. And so like with the swelling with my knee, I have like, if you know anything about lupus, it's an inflammatory disease. So like any type of inflammation is like overly excessive. So I do deal with that, but you know what? I love this so much that I just, it is what it is. And it's that stupid YOLO saying, right? You only live once. It's true. I could choose to go lay in my bed all day and be a lazy bum and cry myself to sleep every night. Like, oh, this hurts, that hurts. There are days where you need to take your rest. But you also can't live like that. Nobody can live like that. And people choose to live like that because they have doctors that tell them they should. And it's just not, it's not ideal. So if you have the ability to push past things, I truly believe that you should. So,
man, I love that. Oh, I feel so Emma and I are about to go do a workout at 11 o'clock tonight.
International Women's Day, y'all.
Yes,
it is perfect conversation.
This is so perfect.
Terry,
I love
so when are we gonna go to her gym and take a class together? Can we have a dual private session here with you?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll have to do after her fight. So when you're talking about cutting weight, what is your training weight usually around?
So generally outside of camp, I walk around 120, 122. In camp, while I'm like dieting pretty strictly. So that's 120, 122 is when I can snack. I can
sure,
have my ice cream at night before bed. But in camp, I'm around 117, 116 in there. And then a couple weeks out, I'll drop to like 14, 13. And then 2 weeks before, I'm about 110. And then I slowly chop down from there to 105.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Emma's a bodybuilder, but yeah.
I'm 5'4".
Damn, so you're taller than me at 105. Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm a tall Atomweight, but that's kind of a perk too. It's just being tall and skinny.
Right. I was gonna say, yeah. So what is is that kind of the decision to you? I mean, I know you always want to compete at the lowest weight class that you can. What is the next weight class up from Atom?
115. So that's a 10-pound weight gap.
10 pound.
Yeah.
When it's 10 pounds from like from like 10 pounds from like 185 to 195 isn't necessarily as much as 105 to 115. We're almost at
Yeah.
total 10% body weight.
Yeah, that's a huge chunk. So
Yeah,
a lot of
okay.
the girls that like professional, let me preface it this, professional girls, not amateur, because a lot of amateurs will fight near their walk around weight, which gets a
Right.
little bit more dangerous the more skill you get, because you're starting to deal with people who are learning how to cut weight. So
Mhm.
professional girls that fight at 115 generally cut from like 135 to like 145 in that area. 145 is pretty big, but there are girls who do that, like if that's their walk around weight. So for me, who walks at 120, 122 max, that is like 20 pounds.
That's
Like
a
15, 20
lot.
pounds almost. Yeah,
That's a
that's a lot.
large
How
percentage.
long does that take you?
To get down to 105?
Yeah, like
You
when
said it was
you
like
start
it was
cutting
like
to like
2 weeks
competition.
for 2 weeks. There was a bunch of 2-weekers in there. I was
Yeah,
trying to do the math.
if I'm doing it properly and like healthily, about 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
If I'm trying to get it down really fast, I could do it probably in 2 weeks, but I would be miserable and probably not very healthy.
No.
Because
No.
Torrance actually got me into bodybuilding. So like kind of like how your husband introduced you, like that
Mhm.
made me think of like, oh, I do what I do now because of Torrance, right? And so like I was like,
Bodybuilding is not as healthy as cutting as MMA, as I'll tell you that.
so like when
You
you were
guys
talking
are
about like
intense.
cutting and water dropping and this and that, I was like, wow, that sounds vaguely familiar. So I was like, I wonder how long that cut is. Cause like I've been prepped for 20 fucking weeks, like to
Mhm.
cut 30, 40 pounds. Cause that's just how my
Yeah.
body is. I hold a lot of weight.
Mhm.
Compared to like other girls beside me on stage. But like I was like, 2 fucking weeks. How you drop 20 pounds in 2 weeks?
Well, that's the other
But-
thing too. Like with bodybuilding, you don't have to eat to perform, right? Like you're just trying to drop a bunch of weight so you can stand on a stage and like flex and stuff. When it comes to MMA, like you're like getting your brain rattled. So when your brain is dehydrated and you get hit, literally it bounces off the walls of your head. There's no fluid in there for it to get absorbed, which is why concussions happen so easily and things like that when people cut massive amounts of weight.
Okay.
So like you have to think of it from like a performance standpoint, right? Like you're
Right,
not
because
getting
you're supposed to be
to
at
bodybuild.
peak performance and
Yeah.
lowest weight possible. That
Yeah.
is
So that's why bodybuilders can be a little bit more drastic and like
Sure.
dangerous with their cuts, because they're not taking any blows to the head or their organs, like their kidney and liver, like those kind of like body shots. Now it's completely unhealthy. And you like bodybuilders are intense, man. Like I would say they're more intense than fighters when it comes to
they're
like cutting.
insane. They are literally insane.
I don't know how you do that.
I know a bunch of bodybuilders.
Funny, because
and
I
y'all-
was thinking this is like the opposite here. Like I thought I was
No,
like,
no,
you guys are insane.
See,
I
I
even
do it for
dropped
No.
6
weight.
weeks.
No,
You do it for 20.
I will agree, because it's like, yes, I know a fighter, but I also know a bunch of bodybuilders, and I will say the bodybuilders, there's legit something wrong with every bodybuilder. Like, no offense, I love you, Emma, but I tell them all there's something like a little off up here, because at least with the fighting, you were like, you're fucking fighting, right? You're like the adrenaline.
And you
y'all are going to,
replenish.
y'all are going to go stand on the stage like,
But I
Falling
look like
over
a
like all
superhero,
dehydrated.
I know it's y'all are so, and the whole process of it is literal insanity. At least for fighting, in my little brain, it makes more sense. But I'm like, y'all are all y'all are insane.
It's for both sports, it's a lot of discipline.
Yes,
Like you can be as motivated as you want, but if there's no discipline, man, that is it's hard. Like,
and there's serious health consequences for both sports if you don't do things correctly, or if you try to cheat and do things,
laxatives or whatever you choose to do to get yourself to the point where you need to make weight, or sitting in a sauna for too long, or whatever the case may be, waiting till the last minute to start cutting, or some people like take drugs or drink, and it's just not
there's a lot. Yeah, exactly. So I know we're getting close to your bedtime, but I did want to ask you, where did the nickname Honeybadger come from?
So I'm sure everyone has seen that viral honey badger video, the honey badger don't give a shit video on YouTube. Well, I actually had never seen it at the time. But one of my teammates, his name's Pierre, he's one of our 205 pro fighters. At the time, there wasn't a lot of people my size to train with. So it was me versus like our smallest guy was probably like that was actively training was probably like 135. And like bigger. So I was training with bigger dudes and I was just kind of like, I don't know, just a little scrappy, you know? So, and I just didn't care. Like, I just wanted to get better, like I was saying. So he came up with that nickname because I was like that little guy that just kind of like would latch on to you and I was aggressive and I've toned down a lot now, but like when I'm in the fight, it's go time, you know? So he gave me that nickname. And it was just kind of funny because as I evolved in the sport, one of my most dangerous weapons, I'm very skilled in the clinch, and in the clinch comes elbows and knees. And, you know, I split a girl open in her face with a knee. I've kicked girls and my knee landed and I've rocked them. Like my knees are very dangerous. So it was kind of funny that it turned into honey badger.
Yeah.
So it kind of just progressed over the years and it kind of stuck. Originally my nickname was Spark Plug, which is like it was just because like I was that like small little thing that just was like explosive, right? So that's kind of how I got that nickname, and then thank God it eventually changed. but yeah, so that's how I got it.
I love it. Yeah. I was like, there's gotta be a story when we saw first we saw the honey badger and then we saw the honey badger. I was like, oh, you know, there's a story behind that. Yeah.
Let's just leave it at this. My training partners don't like to be in my clinch. But
learn today.
Yeah.
I love it.
We all have our strengths, right?
Yeah. What does your typical week look like training wise? Like how many, you know, are you on the mats every day? Do you cross train? How does that structure typically look?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the works of getting another training partner to cross train with in Indiana pretty soon. So we'll see if it works out. I'm just like so busy all the time, but I would really like to work with this girl. She's like a black belt and also like comes from a really good boxing gym. So I'm excited to train with her. Hopefully she doesn't kill me. She actually hasn't had any MMA fights, I don't think, but like she trains or she competes often in jiu-jitsu, I believe. And she just won Golden Gloves. So she's legit. So I'm excited to work with her if I get a chance to. My husband reached out for her, but generally I don't really cross train too much. We have a pretty decent size like girl squad and like smaller guys. We have like 115-pound and 125-pound guys. Okay. So I get to work with them a lot. But yeah, I'm on the mats almost every single day. If I'm not on the mats, I'm here either doing recovery stuff or just, you know, learning and teaching. But 2 days out of the week are double sessions. And then I get like one rest day.
Nice.
Yeah. Out of camp, I'm probably in the gym 5 days a week. But in camp, 6 days for sure, sometimes 7.
How long is the camp cycle?
So generally fighters get 6 to 8 weeks, but this camp was like 14 weeks. They let me know like way ahead of time. So I've been killing myself for a while here, which is half of the reason why I really need to take care of my knee, because it's been a long, hard, like grueling camp. So
yeah, that is
I'm excited for you guys to watch it because I've been putting in so much work, and I really think it's going to show, and I'm super excited.
Sherry, we need to have a watch party.
I know. I'm already thinking. I'm like, I'm gonna get Moses to host that one. Yeah, you know, Frank was also saying, you know, he took MMA while training off season for hockey to help balance. Yeah, that's you know, do you get a decent amount of people in other sports training MMA for like shits and giggles for cross training, or is it more specific?
A lot of the times it's college athletes who have transitioned out, and what happens is they take like a year off and they just kind of fall into like drinking habits, or like not like they don't have any goals anymore because they're not playing a sport, and they come in and they're like, yeah, I need to do something.
Yeah.
So that's generally how that works. Now we do have like a lot of high schoolers that come in between like wrestling season that are looking for like so a lot of the times it's just stand up because they don't want to like do jujitsu and then like kind of like mess up in wrestling, roll into their backs and things like
That makes
that.
sense.
So
That makes a
but
lot of
it's
sense.
a good way to keep like their cardio up and like do resistance training. I know we call it resistance training, but like, you know, a movable force against another one, you know, like that type of concept.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we do get a lot of that, but for the most part, it's generally people who have transitioned out of sports who like have been sitting on their ass for a year and they're like, I really need to do something. Like I'm going crazy, and a lot of them generally end up either competing or they're just become like a regular student body base for us.
Cool.
I can 100% relate to being the college athlete and looking for something to do. For me, I found a few. For me now, it's obstacle course races. Like that's like my jam. But yes, I love them. But yeah, it's definitely that whole like that's why I tried boxing. That's what, you know what I mean. You kind of try these different things, and you know, you're like, oh, you're really athletic. You're really good at this. You know, like I'm like randomly was good at racquetball when I tried it. I was like, but you know, it's like, well, I don't love it. And yeah, I 100% like relate to the bouncing around a bit, looking for that next, because I love to like have a goal, have a training cycle. Like my camps aren't going to be as insane as yours because I still do. We're going to St. Patty's Day this Saturday. Like I just move my workouts around.
Yeah, you still want to enjoy life now that you're not like aggressively training for something. Yeah, I already have like the things that I want to do when I'm done training in the back of my head. I want to rock climb. I want to what I would love to do is martial arts stunts for movies, because I feel like women are getting really big as like assassins and like stuff like that in movies right now. It's like I feel like it's really growing, and I think it would be cool to be like, you know, like a stunt double for something like that, or you know, even be just in a movie. I don't know. I feel like that would be cool too. But yeah, that's something I really want to do. And then obviously I would love to coach fighters. I mean, obviously I already kind of do that a little bit now, but I would love to like dedicate my life to training fighters, specifically women if possible, but I'm not biased to just that. So but yeah, I really would like to do stunts and then rock climbing. I love rock climbing. And
so I love to go bouldering. So you already have go bouldering with me. Yeah, it's great cross training for obstacle courses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is really cool.
And hanging. Yeah, and I like to not be attached to a rope or anything because like I don't know, there's something about like when you fall, but then you just learn how to fall and it's no big deal when you fall.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably do bouldering without a rope, but I don't think I could get on that trend where people are now like scaling cliffs without like safety. Like I can't
do stuff inside. No, we're not trying to die here. But you know, I love it how too you're kind of thinking of life like post fight. You know what I mean? It's great to hear that you're having some goals as well, and just kind of planning, right? You're laying the foundation down. Which is going to be phenomenal for women to have the opportunity to have a female coach who's competed professionally and can coach. That's going to be really a game changer, I think. But you got a few years before that happens.
Yeah, I really there's something my husband told me that his coach actually told him is like, you know, there's always life outside of fighting, and like you can't forget that. Like there's you still have your family, you still have the things that you find are fun and that you love, and you still have to be a happy human being. And if you like, yes, I dedicate like 95% of my life to this, but there's still things that I love to do outside of it. And you still want to think of those things, because otherwise you get really consumed. And then when things go wrong or or you fail or anything like that, it's the end of the world. And at the end of the day, it's not, right? They're learning moments, yes, but at the same time, again, there's always life outside of fighting. There's life outside of any sport that you play. And I think it's important to keep that in perspective.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So final question for you before I let you go, because I know you got to go home and get the next day ready to go. But when the cage closes, tell me how like right before a fight, you know what I mean? The door closes, you're in that damn cage, you're ready to go. I mean, do you have a certain mantra that you use? Like, what is that final, 30 seconds before a fight? What are you thinking? What are you doing?
One thing I tell myself as I'm walking out is that I'm dangerous. It's very easy to sometimes get caught up in what your opponent can do, what can happen to you, especially when you've been in the sport a long time. You've seen a lot of things. You've seen a lot of really good people get caught, make mistakes, things like that. And it's important to go through all those scenarios in your head. Like I've worked with a mental coach, and it is good to see every possible outcome, even the bad ones. That way, when it happens, it's not a surprise. Like it's good to do all those things. But like one thing I tell myself right when that cage door closes is, I am dangerous. I'm going to put a punch in your mouth, and that's the end of it. And I had to really get that through my head, because I'm for the most part a fairly slow starter. I like to feel people out. I like to see like what they're going to throw first. But at my weight class, what I don't understand it, but the girls that I fight tend to just come out like wild. Like they want to hit you as hard as they can, as fast as they can. And most of the time, a lot of my fights, you'll see me weathering storms the first couple minutes, just because it's just all over the place. They're so hungry to like headhunt and hit you that they kind of lose track of everything else. So if you can weather that storm, and you can kind of like start to control the storm, that is like beneficial. But then I had to start getting into the mindset that I am the storm. Like I am going to bring it to you, and you better be ready to either take it or fight back. So that's kind of like what I keep in my head in that moment. When they announce my name is when I start to feel like butterflies and things like that. I'm walking out, and they've got a camera like this close to your face, and there's smoke everywhere, and like all these smells and these things that like get your like adrenaline pumping and going. But then I get in the cage, and I smack my arms, I smack my legs, I make sure my feet are underneath me on the ground. I can feel everything. And then that's when I go, they call my name. They have the camera in my face one more time, and then that's go time. It's like, I'm sticking a punch in your mouth, and that's that. And then we go from there. We adapt based off of what happens from that moment.
Can we be best friends? I love you.
I know.
I
I'm
love
like,
you.
never leave us. Thank you. Stay here forever. Oh my God.
I feel so empowered after today's conversation.
Ooh.
God damn
Me
it.
too. What a good for International Women's Day. Well, thank you so much for coming. I know we will be in touch. First of all, our group chat will stay as a thing, but we will be ready to get a little. I'm gonna definitely try to get a little watch party going to watch your opening fight
Can we
of
get
the
like
season.
some Team Summers gear? I see.
I was looking at that.
One.
Yeah,
I still want one.
Yeah, TMH Fits. You can find them on their link is on my Instagram. So if you want to cop one of my shirts.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
we're gonna be decked out at our party, Sherry.
I know. Yeah, I'm like legit ready for this. This is gonna be amazing. Awesome. Well, you have a great night. Get some sleep and get up ready tomorrow and get ready to do that shit all over again.
Yeah, sparring day tomorrow. So
Ooh, fun.
Super fun. The best way to do it.
You are dangerous.
You are dangerous, though.
I am. Watch out.
Awesome. Well, you have a good one.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
Oh my God.
I'm like borderline tears right now. Like, this woman is fucking awesome. I just want to be her best friend.
So fucking badass. Like badass. Like she will. Wow. Man, and she would fuck your ass up in the back alley. Woo.
I just feel so empowered. Like
I do too. And the whole thing too with like having lupus and all these other, you
Yes.
know, having a daughter, all these other things that like a lot of people would stop at, right? Like, oh, I have lupus, I can't be an athlete. Or, you know, I've had my daughter now, my career was fun. Like all these
I
you
got
know,
hurt. I
despair.
messed up my knee. You know, that's the
Yeah.
biggest one for most of us old people. My knees.
Man, ain't that the truth? So, but yeah, I love that. Like, and it's like, okay, at 1 hour and 17 minutes, she said I am dangerous. I'm gonna hit up Terrence and be like, you gotta grab a clip of that because that's a great mantra.
Can we like buy? Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy her hoodie, and then on the back, I'm gonna heat press on I am dangerous. And we're gonna look fucking dope and take lots of pictures at our watch party.
Shit.
Ooh.
Yes.
I gotta go to her Instagram tonight. We're ordering them.
I know, right? Let's go. Let's fucking go. So ready. Well, thank you, Emma, so much for joining me this evening. Thanks for Torrance for hooking me up with such a phenomenal woman.
Camera bombing our interview, which is great.
First time for that, and I loved it. It was great. This is why I love to do shit live, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, all right. And then on that note,
this has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
Bye.
Bye.